swim. And just before I go into the pool, I want to talk to you a little bit about Amazon buying Bitcoin, about Microsoft buying Bitcoin. Remember, Amazon is, I think, the 5th largest company on the planet. And I just had a conversation there with a consulting client, and I'll share you a little bit what we're chatting about. So if that sounds good, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and then you don't miss these updates and you get to learn about Bitcoin. You get to retire early. That's our slogan, because that's literally what we do. So Bitcoin can't be ignored. For years, I've been helping people to understand Bitcoin, because the more you understand Bitcoin, the more you use Bitcoin. And by use Bitcoin, I might mean save in Bitcoin, give Bitcoin your attention, build Bitcoin into everything else you do in your life or into your business, or join Bitcoin networks, join Bitcoin communities, and just continue to learn. So recently, Michael Saylor, who was the first public company to ever put Bitcoin on their balance sheet back in 2020, and it made his company the most successful company in the stock market over the last 4 years, just by embracing Bitcoin, because this is just what Bitcoin does. It turbocharges everything. But Michael spoke to the Microsoft board to pitch them on the idea of putting some of their cash, because companies sit on billions of dollars of cash, and they just sit it in treasuries, and treasuries are yielding, maybe 5% interest. So you're like, oh, sure, I'm earning 5 grand on 100 grand, or scale those numbers up to $1 billion. But that doesn't matter, okay? And the reason that doesn't matter is because the currency is losing its value. And for years, most people didn't understand this, but since 2008, our currency has hemorrhaged value, and anyone who saves in currency or cash is getting destroyed, and they're losing purchasing power. So all that matters is, it's not how much money you have in the bank, it's what you can purchase, which are assets, okay? So whether it's in a bank or whether you've got different assets, all that matters is your purchasing power. And as an investor, or someone who wants more freedom or more money, you want to be increasing your purchasing power. However, because the denominator, being cash, euros, pound sterling, dollars, loses purchasing power, most of us aren't aware this is happening, and that's why we save in inferior things other than Bitcoin. I price everything in Bitcoin because it's the most true reflection of currency dilution, and it allows me to make my decisions much more accurately. Everything has to compare to Bitcoin. So if someone has a great opportunity for me, it has to be like, well, but like in Bitcoin, I'm guaranteed 50% a year, and I do nothing. So your idea sounds like a bit of work, and I don't think you can give me 50% a year. So I'm happy enough. And that's really hard to conceptualize for most people, because they like to meddle. They like to think, if I'm doing something, I can do better. And again, that's why most people trade Bitcoin. And those people who just own Bitcoin and do nothing outperform them massively. So anyway, long story short, the Microsoft shareholders demanded that the board consider putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, because they've seen every other company who does this, the performance of the stock increases so much. So the stock just becomes more valuable. Okay. Now, you guys know, if you follow me, that my base case is that every company will do this in the future, and the companies who act early have a huge advantage. And I've been helping Irish companies and UK companies to do this. I've even helped some companies in Australia who are owned by Irish people to do the strategy over the last couple of years. And it just means that the founders, the owners, the directors of these companies, the companies are worth much more today. And so every company's going to do this, just like every company leverages social media, every company uses the internet. It's just another value stack on top of the digitization of the world. So Microsoft had their meeting to decide, would they put Bitcoin on their balance sheet? That happens tomorrow, okay? But lo and behold, what's happened? Well, the Amazon shareholders have done the very same. Now, these two companies alone sit on billions and billions and billions, okay, of cash. And it's just hemorrhaging value. Now, fair enough, both of these companies are digital monopolies, okay, so they earn loads of money. But even aside from that, okay, just because you earn, let's say, and the way I'll describe it is, you have a bucket of water and there's a big hole in the bottom, but the tap is running, so you don't really notice that you're running out of water. But like, imagine how much better it would be if you just filled the hole. So eventually these companies will figure out that they can plug the hole, and they do even better. So for me, it's not a question of when Amazon put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, or it's not a question of if Amazon put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, or if Microsoft put put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I'm 100% certain that they will, okay? And it's just a question of time. And with Bitcoin, there will be a God candle. There will come a time when Bitcoin is unavailable and people will be desperate to get it and they just won't be able to, okay? And that's why it's important. Being short Bitcoin is the riskiest thing that anyone who understands money can do at the moment. The TradFi world is incentivized to tell you that Bitcoin risky, Bitcoin volatile, be careful with it. Oh, I own a little bit. And that's fully because either they're incentivized for you not to understand Bitcoin or they just haven't done the work on it. Okay. So at the moment, there's a Bitcoin conference in MENA or something, I think it's called. It's over in Abu Dhabi, right? Who's attending it? Is it, as British Hodl would say, a load of $1,000 net worthers? No. Okay, some of the wealthiest people on the planet are all attending it. And there will come a time when some of these people decide, I'm not going to drop $1,000 into Bitcoin. I'm going to drop $1 billion. Or in fact, I might drop 5 billion in. And this is where you start to see God candles. And this is where you start to see FOMO. And this is where retail people, they just won't be able to get access to Bitcoin. I've just been having a conversation with, I just had an email from an Australian client. And apparently in Australia, it's really difficult for them to get Bitcoin. And this will happen everywhere. Because remember, never in an instance of amazing assets do normal plebs get to have it and the top 1% struggle. It's like, as the top 1% realize they're short Bitcoin, they need to own a lot of Bitcoin, and they want all the Bitcoin that's left on exchanges, which is only over 2 million Bitcoin. I shared it in my Instagram story. If you're not following me on Instagram, come have the crack. I post every day in my stories. But it's the lowest level of Bitcoin available for sale on exchanges ever. So you can see that the Bitcoin is being bought up. And someone said to me, Dinny, what does this mean? It's supply and demand, baby. If you can't get anything of what's for sale, the price has to go up and up and up and up. Okay? So just beware, by being short Bitcoin, by taking 5 years to understand and learn this thing, you will end up owning far less Bitcoin than those who learn fast. That's why I have a job. That's why I'm a consultant, because I can accelerate someone's journey to learn it so that they can get an adequate allocation portfolio. Just listening to Scaramucci there at the conference, and in his book, he spends the whole book describing Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is the greatest asset he's ever seen. From, this guy's in his 60s, so whatever, like 4 decades in finance. He's never found anything like this, never found an investment opportunity. And he wrote the book, and people are always conservative, and he decided, yeah, like everyone needs to own 2%. Then the guy who he asked to write the foreword said, I love the book, absolutely love it, except for the last chapter. I don't like the last chapter. And he says, why? He says, because you're telling people they should own 2% of their net worth in this thing, yet you've just wrote a book describing how in your whole life in finance, and you've been a man almost 70, that you've never seen an opportunity like this or an asset like this. Why are you being so bearish? How much of your net worth is in Bitcoin? And how much do you think of his net worth is in this thing? Okay, remember, this is a guy who has a lot of property, a lot of other assets. How much of his net worth is in Bitcoin? He has got 80% of his net worth. 80. And that's shocking. Okay? And wait till all these high net worthers, these billionaires, realize that they don't just need 1% of their net worth in Bitcoin, because the other 99% is hemorrhaging value when you price it in Bitcoin. Remember at the start of this call, I said price everything in Bitcoin because it's a true reflection of value. So this is what's happening. Remember, most people will be blinded by crypto and they'll run into the shiny objects and they don't understand the difference between Bitcoin and crypto, and that's fine. Okay, they're generally retail people. You'll never see billionaires doing this. Okay, I prefer to follow smart people. I do what rich people do. I try and think like a wealthy person, and lo and behold, I hit my financial goals. So this is where you find the signal. It's a world full of noise. Most people are confused. They're not willing to do the work. With the client I just consulted with, I sent him a load of resources and I sent him book recommendations. And I was like, you know, you got to get through this. This is what you've got to consume. So that's what's happening. I'll be tuning into the conference. I'm going to go in, get my swim in, and then I'll be tuning back into the Bitcoin conference and enjoying to see what comes out of that. Remember, Bitcoin is a generational opportunity. It's not a make €1,000 this year or make 100 grand in 2 years. It's retire your family forever. Okay, it's create a legacy. It's create generational wealth. It's take your family from the situation that you now live in. That's the goal. But it's also to free humanity. It's also to give everyone equal opportunities. It's also to give everyone perfect money that everyone can use. So it's not about funding a company like crypto and getting a charismatic leader and then giving you loads of hopium. This is, you need to do the work. You need to understand this thing. You need to take control of it. And if you do those things, you can change your life in a really positive way. I can't guarantee that. Nothing I say here is financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Just a Bitcoiner. Just someone who fell down the rabbit hole, done some work on it. And I had a really powerful change in my life, how I think about the world, my positivity for the future, and to be able to work on something that's going to accelerate the progress of humanity and make the world a better place for everyone, not just for the 1%ers. Guys, hope you have a super day. Thanks for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you don't get what I say, hit the dislike button. That's cool too. Guys, Dinny out for now. Thanks for being here.